everyone. I'm Stephanie Mann, and this is the Safe Kids Now show. And I am so excited today to have a certified health coach, and her name is Lisa Strother. And Lisa is an internationally awarded makeup artist. She was a creative director, an educator, and she turned to a multiple certified health coach. And, our health is so important, especially our children and our parents. And Lisa currently holds certification from the National Academy of Sports. And the certified, well, let's say she is a certified nutrition coach, behavior change specialization, and she's a weight loss specialist. And she's currently certified at Ara Wellness Institute. And she's also a yoga teacher. Holy smokes. She's got so much going for her, and I'm so thrilled to have her. So thank you so much for being with us today, Lisa. And let me bring her in right now. There she is. Hi,
Hello.
Lisa.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today because, probably the most important thing we can do for ourselves is have good health. Because if you don't have good health, everything falls apart. I mean, all of us need to have good health. So tell us, how did you get started as a holistic coach? Give us some background information.
Sure. This goes back many years. I'd say 8 or 10 years. I was overweight. I had high cholesterol, and then that led to polyps. I had cancerous polyps that had to be removed, and it just kind of was a jarring wake up call for me. And doctors were like, we don't really know. We don't know what you can do. We don't know why this happened. So I took it into my own hands, and it kind of became a hobby along the way. And then, the pandemic happened, and being a makeup artist, we touch almost all of the orifices. And so
that's right.
I knew that was going to change drastically. And I didn't even know when we would be able to do makeup again. So I had originally intended to retire at 50, which is this coming up March here. But the pandemic just kind of pushed that along a little quicker. And I just, being stuck at home, I just got certified in everything I could get my hands on. So,
that's wonderful. But one of the amazing things that you sent me some information about yourself, and you said you went from a size 16 to a size 4. How is that possible? Tell us how you do that, because I understand you didn't have any surgery to make that happen.
No.
So you did it on your own with your own initiative. So tell us how you do that.
My own gumption. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So there were no pills or surgeries or doctors involved in any of that. I just started studying avidly, like taking in any information I could, talking to professionals, talking to other health coaches, and I did a lot of experimenting. So it was a slow process of, I think the first thing I took out was soda. I was like, I'm not drinking soda anymore. That made a huge difference.
Yeah, I understand. That's huge.
It's so much sugar. And then took out dairy. And I remember taking out within 30 days, like 17 pounds melted off my body. It just kind of slowly disappeared. I later ended up removing gluten from my diet as well. And that gave me some major changes also. And I'm very big proponent of eating high protein. Most of us don't get enough protein. I had gone 35 years-ish without eating any red meat. And I added that back a couple years ago, and everyone says I'm reverse aging. So,
well, are you saying that you've added back eating red meat?
Yes.
Is that what, and has that been a positive?
Yes,
for you?
Been mind-blowing. The change is mind-blowing. I was doing, before I added back red meat, I was doing yoga like 5 or 7 days a week. And I added red meat back, and then just doing yoga like maybe 3 to 5 days a week. And my body looked even better and more defined than when I was doing the yoga 7 days a week. eating differently.
Okay, now you tell us that as the price of meat, red meat, is going up. Oh dear.
Right. Yes.
Okay, well, what do you think are the three most important things that you did besides eating red meat that really helped you take off the weight?
Sure. Taking out all of that processed food and sugar. I don't eat sugar either. I don't eat processed sugar.
No
S-
cupcakes, no donuts.
I mean, girl, I can hook up some baked goods, but they don't look, they're not traditional for what most of us eat. But I can whip up some yumminess. I'm the master modifier in the kitchen now because of my journey. But so I think that was huge, taking out the foods that we don't need. I mean, our body doesn't need sugar or hamburger
No.
buns or all of these things that we've added that we think we can't live without. Like there's so much that our body doesn't need or want. So taking out all the processed stuff and the sugary foods, refined carbs and all of that, that I think was the biggest thing. And
Do you know
adding
what's
red
interesting?
meat was just kind of the cherry on top. It, there's my doorbell.
Well,
Fantastic. Sorry about that. But
no.
that definitely made a huge difference. Adding the meat in just kind of took it up a notch. We're not supposed to be vegan or vegetarians. There's no society of man ever recorded in the history of all of the societies that we've ever discovered that lived off plants alone, but like 6% of them lived off animal alone. I think that speaks volumes.
So you eat vegetables and meat and no sugar and no dairy products. Is that correct?
I've changed that a little bit. So
Okay.
I did, when I took out dairy, I hung on to chocolate. That was the only dairy I would eat was milk chocolate.
Well, we're all
But
entitled to our vices here, a little bit here and there. Good.
yeah, I took out the sugar though, and that pretty much was the end of that because there's not really any good chocolate out there that doesn't have sugar in it. So, but
You
yes,
know,
that,
you know what
yes.
I discovered eating sugar? Because I worked at See's Candy Store when I was 18.
I
And
would have been
you could
shy.
eat all of the candy you
Oh
wanted,
my
which I
God.
did. I loved candy like any teenager. And I got such bad gout. I used to have to tape up my wrists because I had this
Wow.
arthritis. And I would warn people that, sugar, uh, limit it for heaven's sakes,
Yeah.
because it can do really bad stuff to your body. Because, that I didn't even know what caused it. But,
Right.
for lunch, I was eating candy.
Right. Because it
So
was
that wasn't
free
too
and
smart.
a free buffet.
A
I
free
tell people
buffet.
sugar is basically a fertilizer for anything that's wrong with you. So if you have arthritis and you're eating
That's
sugar, you're
good.
just like encouraging that arthritis. If you have cancer, if you have any issue you have, because all our issues come from inflammation. Every single thing that's wrong or anyone starts with inflammation. That's the trigger right there. And
Yeah.
and we all respond to inflammation differently. That's why it looks different on everybody. But when you have any sort of issue and you eat sugar, you're just fueling the fire. You're like, I want to be sick. Give me more sugar. That's what you're doing.
I think you're absolutely right, because it sure affected me. And I know it affects a lot of people. And, you go to those wonderful bakeries and you see all those beautiful cakes and pastries and all that. Man, you got to have really good determination to say, nope, I'm moving on.
I mean,
So,
I'm someone who had to I just had to eliminate it completely. It's not something that I'm really good at having occasionally, but some people can. 85% of the time you need to eat really good and be really good to the body. And the other 15% you can fudge because you've equipped yourself to handle those toxins.
yeah. Now I understand that you also, you do some mental work with, people that come to you.
Yes.
How do you prepare them mentally so that they are able to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish?
Everyone's different, so the approach can't always be the same. But what I find to be most successful with my clients is small changes. So I was just having a conversation this morning with someone who's like, I just want to eat all protein and I just want to do this. And I'm like, and she's like, I'm going to have a cheat meal every Saturday. And I'm like, really agree with that, because you're all good and then you just do this explosion of horribleness, and that's not good for your body either. It's better to spread that out a little bit, like if you're somebody who gets a giant frappuccino, 3 or 4 times a week at Starbucks, we could start by maybe just doing that once or twice a week, maybe removing the whipped cream, maybe doing a milk alternative. Like there are little tiny changes you can do within that one bad habit that you have to start getting you moving to the other side and in the right direction.
Yeah.
So it's not huge changes.
Good.
It's all kinds of little stuff to add and tweak to make it work for you. Diets don't work. They don't work. That's why you've been on 50 of them, 1,000 of them your whole life. And
Yeah.
like you go back, you finish the diet, and then what do? Like my approach is all about living and putting in our body what we're supposed to do. Like evolution wise, what is our body created? Like, how are we supposed to eat? What are we supposed to feed it? And feed it that way.
So many people make New Year's resolutions. New Year's is going to come up in a month. And they say that something like 85% of people break their New Year's resolutions. And a lot of times their resolution has to do with diet. So how do we mentally prepare people? So, and maybe it's setting small goals, but what else can we do to prepare ourselves for actually following through on a New Year's resolution?
Sure. So it looks different for everyone. Sometimes I have clients who are like numbers people and they have to see all the numbers. So they're more likely to use like an app to like track all of their, how much protein did I get today? How many carbs, how many calories, all of that stuff. And like, they're more likely to weigh themselves on a daily basis because they want to see those numbers, and the numbers are what matter to them. There's other people that their encouragement comes the second they start feeling like their jeans are a little looser or their skin is clearing up or something. So it depends on who I'm dealing with, how I approach that. But you first and foremost, you have to want it. And then
Right.
secondly, you need to know what does your goal look like? Do you need to have an idea in your head of exactly what you want to happen? And then you have to figure out how to get there. That's what I do. I help you get there. But you have to already know that and prepare yourself for that. And then behavior modification is basically my job. Like the health coach and all that other stuff just happens to go along with that. But none of this makes any difference if I can't get you to change your behaviors. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm all about those little tiny tweaks. You prepare yourself, you talk to yourself. I have my clients write themselves notes, hang next to the refrigerator, or write on the fridge, or write little notes on their mirror in the bathroom, reminders, set reminders on your phone, like eat more protein or drink your water. So it looks different for everybody, but there's a way to make it happen. Like we figure out how you work and then we adjust things accordingly.
Sounds like a good plan. So we're going to talk to Lisa about, she also instructs in yoga. So we're going to talk about the benefits of yoga when we come back. We have a very short commercial and we will be back in about 30 seconds.
Throw and Tuck. It's handmade by myself, and you only can get it here, and it's patent, and it's only here at Rococo Design. It's like a regular pillow, or you can take the blanket out like so, fluff up the pillow, open up your blanket, wrap it around yourself, and then you can lay on your sofa and relax with your pillow, throw and tuck. When you're done with it, just flip it over. When you don't want the blanket anymore, you just fold it over twice. Fold it over twice again. Fold it over. And tuck it in the back. And there you go. You're back to the pillow, throw, and tuck. Rococo Design.
If you tuned in a little late, we are talking to Lisa Strother. And Lisa is an expert in coaching on nutrition, behavioral change, weight loss, and she's also a yoga teacher. So I've heard about yoga for a long time, and I've heard about the many benefits. What do you think are the benefits of going to take classes in yoga?
There are so many. So your mental space, I think, is the biggest change. And I want to go backwards just a little bit to food, because your food affects your mental space too. So most of us don't get enough protein, and that's what makes you crazy. So
Okay, tell us, for some people may not understand what is protein.
okay,
Tell us.
so quality protein, and I prefer people get their protein from animal, but there are plant proteins that you can eat as well. But animal protein is what our body needs to function and to grow, and that's meat is what made us what we are, Homo sapiens today. So for example, I have girls that are like dancers, been dancers their whole life. They're always tiny and they never eat anything. And as soon as I'm like, no, I need you to eat, and I need you to eat this steak until you're full, they're like, oh my God, my headspace is amazing. So I say all that to say that your mental space isn't just from one thing or the other. Like you need sleep, you need exercise, and you need good food. You need all of those things, right?
Right.
So what yoga does for you is helps you breathe through the uncomfortable. I mean, if you've ever been in a yoga class and you're in Buddha squat, which means you're squatting down, right? And your calves or your thighs are like parallel to the floor, and you're just holding and holding and holding. Breath in yoga is super important, and you breathe through it. So you learn how to breathe through the uncomfortability in life, and let those things wash over instead of consume you and affect your mindset and your approach to the world. So, I mean, it's good for your body too, but ultimately your brain space is what benefits the most from yoga.
I've heard people say that we really need to do more about paying attention to how we breathe. And, I'm a big one. I do lots of exercise, water type exercises, but that deep breathing, so many people don't take deep breaths. And I feel it invigorates me a great deal when I'm out of breath, and because you're filling up your whole lung. And some of us just sit behind a computer and do shallow breathing, and we do have to do a better job. How do you feel about breathing, because it's so important?
I've been I have an 18-year-old son, and from the day that he could understand me giving him direction, I had him breathing. And I remember all through like playing sports and everything, this 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, I see get him frustrated on the court, and I watch him stop and take those 3 deep breaths and wrangle himself back in. And that's huge. But if you stop and you take that big breath in and you push it all out, and then take it in and push it out, take it in, push, and you're like, oh, that is better. And in yoga, like the breathing is everything. I tell clients, like, don't worry about the movement, worry about matching your movement to your breath. Once your breath is under control and you can manage that, it changes everything in your practice. It makes such a big difference. And that I take it in the world with me. Like if somebody is stressing me out, I can just be like, okay, let's go.
And it can calm you down, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And it's good for you.
I think so many angry people really need to take a lot of deep breaths before they even say anything. Because
and they probably need to eat more protein.
And eat more protein. I'm going to remember that, because I think you're right. And that's probably one thing I don't do. I haven't been eating. Chicken I will eat. I eat quite a bit of chicken, but steak, I haven't had a steak in a long time. So I'm going to go to the store and get a steak.
Grass-fed. I want you to eat the grass-fed steak. Don't eat the other stuff. Only if dire circumstances.
Okay.
But the thing with the grass-fed, it's got all the omegas. Like you basically can get your vegetables from your meat if you're eating your meat right. So.
Oh, now I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Because the cow eats the vegetables, the grass and whatever.
Right.
And corn and things like that. So you're actually eating, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's traditional cows that are raised like not in very good places, and they eat off of like, metal grates full of corn and grain and all of that. That nutritional value of that cow is going to be considerably different because you have to treat it with like hormones and antibiotics because cows aren't supposed to eat corn. It messes up their stomach. It just all kinds of craziness that goes on with how they want to raise these cows versus the cow that's raised in the pasture eating grass. Like the nutritional value is huge. And the stress of the animal also affects how good that animal is for you. To certain hormones when they're stressed or under duress or whatever. So all of those things to keep in mind.
So you want calm, collected cows, right?
And chickens.
I mean, and chickens.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do. Okay, we don't know that, but what happened to these chickens before. So,
right.
Okay, we'll assume that they are calm and cool and collected. Okay, what are some of the most important things that you share with other people that really makes a difference in their life? What do you think is the three most important things you think is most important?
The protein thing, I think, is most important. I find that that's one of the things that makes the biggest difference. Mindfulness also, being aware.
Okay,
and
give us a definition of mindfulness.
I don't know if this is the exact Webster's definition, but I'll give you mine.
Okay,
like being aware
good.
of what you're doing. I call it living on purpose. Like people just kind of plug along around. You're like, what have I been doing? What have I been eating? How did I get to size 16? It's because you're not living on purpose. Like you want to pay attention to what you're doing. You want to eat on purpose. Like don't just stuff in your face. Like, why am I eating this? What is this going to do for me? This ice cream cone is not going to do anything for me. It might make me gassy and it might, give me a sugar rush. But in the grand scheme of things, why am I, spending $12 on this ice cream cone and inhaling it? Like it's causing me harm. So knowing that you need to be good to your body. I think a lot of people don't even know. There are so many people that swear to me that food makes zero difference. And that's what I'm dealing with. So there's a good, they wouldn't sell it. McDonald's wouldn't be in business if it was horrible for us, is the mindset that people think.
Dear.
So
okay. Those fast food places have been designated as fat food places because you're not eating the right kind of food.
Yeah, so we eat the SAD, the acronym for the Standard American Diet, SAD.
Yeah, one of my weaknesses is French fries. Oh dear,
I love fried potatoes.
I do too.
But I eat fried potatoes because I hardly give myself anything else. So I do give myself fried potatoes. But again, is that even that multiple times a week? No. So as long as you're good to yourself for the most part, my favorite example is George Burns. Who remembers George Burns? Okay.
I do.
He lived to like 96 or something. And every time you saw this man, he had a bourbon or something, brown liquor on the rocks and a stogie. And he lived to be almost 100 years old. Do you know why? It's because George Burns was not raised on McDonald's and Lunchables. They didn't have that stuff. You didn't have a choice but to eat real food. So, we're finding these kids are in elementary school with hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, like self-inflicted.
Sad.
And that wasn't something that you could even do back in those days because it wasn't available to you, like that. So you give yourself, like he ate good, so he could have a stogie and his whiskey until the day he died. And he was healthy and like on stage performing, doing movies. And I want to be the 90-something-year-old yoga teacher. That's my goal. But I eat the French fries, but that's one of my things that I'm like, that's one of my things.
I think anything in moderation. How's that?
Right.
Just, once a month, have some French fries. Well, now, were you an obese child? Because you said you were obese and got up to a 16. So you were an adult when you got there, or you started out as a child? Because I've heard that if you give your children the wrong kind of food when they're, little children and they're obese, then it's very hard for them to stop. Right. And they become more obese as they get older. So
Right.
What would you suggest about that?
Well, so no, I was a rail and my mother did.
Oh,
I mean, our sugar cereal was Honey Nut Cheerios we could have once in a while. We didn't, soda was only if we were going up to the lake or something because we didn't have bottled water and iced tea back then. If you wanted to take a cold drink, it was a soda. So you have to set your kids up for success. These kids are being diagnosed with ADD and they probably just
yeah.
haven't had a decent meal in I don't know how long. If you see what these lunchrooms are serving these kids, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
like syrupy peaches with like some cheese pizza that is super over processed and like a side of chocolate milk that's not organic, not grass fed, full of hormones and whatever else they give those cows. So, you know, it's hard.
You know, I remember when Michelle Obama tried to put fruits and vegetables in the schools,
Yeah.
and the kids threw them out.
Yeah.
I think it has to start in the home.
Oh yeah.
Because if you are giving your kids the wrong kind of food and they get used to it, they're going to continue eating the wrong kind of food. It's like if you're brought up Chinese, you love Chinese food. If you're brought up Mexican, you love Mexican food.
Right.
If you're any nationality and you're brought up with a certain type of food, that's what you love. So you got to start with that pretty darn early to get them so that they like a good diet.
I mean, gluten is physically addictive. You have withdrawals, like actual detox, physical withdrawal symptoms. If you're somebody, it happened to me and I didn't even know what was going on. I had to take a step back and redo how I came off of gluten because I was a disaster. There are some people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar AD things. It's simply a gluten allergy because gluten has trace opiates in it. That's like heroin. So there's some people who have the tiny speck and they are off the deep end. Like it makes them go crazy. And then also all these carbs, we're addicted to carbs. People just are craving those carbs. You're not even hungry. You're just craving carbs. So you keep shoving things in your mouth, which makes you crave them more, which makes you fatter, which makes you, it just is a vicious cycle. And we're so uneducated. Nobody cares. I've been very bothered by throughout the entire pandemic. There should be a huge push for being healthy, taking care of yourself. And no one's talking about that. And that literally is the best thing you can do for yourself in any situation, global pandemic aside, but especially when there's a global pandemic. Like, everyone's worried about hand sanitizer, but when's the last time you put a piece of fruit in your mouth or something that wasn't processed or full of sugar? So we really need to start taking responsibility and hold ourselves accountable because just because they're selling it at the store, that doesn't mean that it's okay to eat.
It means you have choices. You know, you can make the choice to go to the fruit and the vegetables
or
and
the clean meats or the clean, you know what I'm saying? Instead of the packaged orange chicken or, this or the frozen that are full of salt and preservatives and blah, blah. I could go on forever.
Well, is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Any sage advice that we can take with us? Because you've given us a lot of good information. What would be our takeaway today?
I would say that in my dealings with people, and I've been an educator, I've been a manager, I've owned my own business, like I've hired and interviewed tons of people. I would say that the thing that I see most people struggling with is trying to control the things they have no control over and not taking control over the things they have control over. For example,
That's true.
I can't control the way my husband drives, or I can't control the way that my teenager acts or something like that. I don't have ultimate control over that. What I have ultimate control over is what I put in my mouth and how I treat my body. But we'll be quick to be 200 pounds and be complaining and mad about it, but not doing anything and worrying about all the other things. So control the controllables, take control of what you have control of, and your life will reflect that fabulously.
Well, that's such good advice. And we want to thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all kinds of good information about this topic about taking responsibility for yourself, your children, your families, is probably the most important thing you can do in order to have a happy, safe life. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, Lisa, how could they go about that?
Most people find me on the social media. So at Hippywell Coach on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find Hippywell on Facebook as well. I do some TikTok stuff. I'm not very good at it, but you can go see me there.
Okay.
I do private messages. My email is on the screen, hippywell@gmail.com. So.
Okay, good. Hippywell. And that's 2 words, Hippywell.
No.
So you
Together.
can spell it.
I've made it one word.
That's one word, Hippywell.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking to you. So
Thank
we'll
you,
look forward
Stephanie.
to
I
talking to you
appreciate
in
it.
the future. Okay,
Yes.
take care.
Have a beautiful day.
Okay, thanks to Lisa for joining us today. I loved what she had to say, and it's so important for all of us to take charge of our own health and wellness. So our speaker next week, next Wednesday at the same time, is going to be Kaylee Gallagher, and I'm in Las Vegas. And do you believe she is a former Las Vegas showgirl? And she's going to tell us about how she got started, what motivated her. And she was hanging from the ceiling on one of those big rings for 7 years. So she's had a lot of experience at being a Las Vegas showgirl. So find out how she moved from being a wonderful woman to just being up there entertaining a huge audience. So join us next Wednesday at the same time, and we will see you then. So thank you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at AAU Media, and visit our website, www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio. You're listening